this video, as we're now just getting started, there's a couple of things that I really want to help you to achieve. In this video, I want to have a brief look at NLP, what it stands for. There's a pretty good chance that you already know. I want to explore one of the first main ideas of the course, cognitive bias, which I'll come on to shortly, and how it is that cognitive bias can prevent you from learning and benefiting the most from this fascinating science, neuro-linguistic programming. All right, so these ideas are all going to completely interconnect. But what I appreciate at this stage is that as you're watching this course, you have the background knowledge that you have of NLP. Whether you perceive that as being much or whether you perceive that as being little, doesn't matter. There's going to be thousands of people all around the world taking this course right now. So from an instructor's perspective, right, what I understand is that everyone has different learning styles. You do, I do, everyone else in the world does, and we all come on courses like this with different sets of expectations. Now, it's important that I just present this idea to you at this stage, because historically, research has showed that when it comes to completing online courses, well, most people, I think it's around about 65%, jump to a conclusion or arrive at a decision, or they make a judgment within the first 5 to 10 minutes whether an online course like this is going to be for them or whether it's not. And what will lead these people to arrive at whatever conclusion they come to is going to be the language that an instructor uses. It's going to be his hair. It's going to be whether they find him humorous. Some people are going to like this. Some people won't like this. It's going to be all to do with the color of shirt that he or she wears. And what I'm saying is, cognitive bias isn't a new idea that I'm going to present to you. It's not going to be something that is going to be brand new. It is in fact something that happens inside of all of us every single day, and it is in fact cognitive bias that determines what we say yes to, what we say no to, whether we fundamentally like things or whether we don't. Because I guess that we're all in this constant state of comparison. We're all comparing ourselves and all things to all other people and all other things all of the time, whether we're aware of this or whether we're not. It's one of these naturally occurring phenomenons, and I'm guessing that this is fundamentally what has made NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, one of the most popular and thought-provoking sciences that currently exists today. NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistics Programming, as I've already mentioned. The neuro part is all about the connections that we make inside of our mind's eye. All right. Now, as you're watching this course right now, think about a time in the past that you've had an aha moment. You know, when the lights go on and you think, "Oh, that's right. That just makes sense." Well, no aha moment ever stands alone in isolation. Aha moments generally stem from when we're connecting some new information that we've just had presented to us with something else that we already fundamentally understand. This is about neurological pathways connecting, which results in us learning something new or gaining a new insight that we've never previously had, and fundamentally us just growing as human beings. Linguistic is all about the spoken language. It's not just about the words that we say, but it's sometimes more to do with how we say what we say. I mean, think about it. Whether you're finding me interesting, engaging, or otherwise right now, isn't just going to be based upon the words that I'm speaking to you, but it's going to be to do with my tone, my pitch, my pace, all of these sorts of things. Even my Scottish accent is going to determine whether you choose to see this course through to completion or whether you don't. So language and the use of language impacts all of us in every single area of life. The words that we say, what we say, and how we say what we say impacts the quality of our relationships, whether our relationships become stronger or whether our relationships fall apart. But what I want to suggest at this stage is that we could spend the entire course looking at our vocal language. We could develop some really cool, communication skills and language patterns. And yes, we're going to be looking at all of this later on in the course anyway. But what I'm going to suggest is that the one most important area that we want to consider our use of language is not externally, but rather is internally. And this is where NLP as a science fundamentally places a lot of importance on how it is that we communicate within ourselves. And one of the main names in personal development, self-improvement, coaching, one of the main guys that made NLP as popular as what it is today, Mr. Tony Robbins, he once stated that the quality of the game that we play in life is going to be determined by just how well we play the inner game. And over the lessons and the sections that follow, I know that you're going to come to better understand and appreciate exactly what I mean by this. So programming is all about what it is that we've learned in life so far. Programming, the programming part of NLP, kind of relates us as human beings to computers. You know, the quality of what comes in equals and determines the quality of output, what goes out. And if you think about it, you must know someone in your life who will spend very little time investing into themselves, i.e., reading, reflecting, developing themselves, studying, or whatever. I mean, how many people do you know who will go to work through the week? They'll do a job that they aren't even really that particularly passionate about. Then they'll go home on a night time. They'll sit in front of the TV. They'll watch TV, and that's kind of it. Well, sadly, this is very much the extent of many people's lives. So if we understand that, then I'm hoping we can also appreciate that if, rather than watching TV every single night, we can feed ourselves with new ideas, new principles, then what we are giving ourselves a constant opportunity to do is grow by relating what it is that we already know to some new ideas and creating these new neurological pathways. So programming is all about our past life experience as well, because learning happens on a few different levels. You can take a course like this, or you can read a book, or you can watch a video, or scour the internet, and you can absorb new information on a conscious level. But then, on another level, unconsciously, we also learn. So, if we're not fully in control of the process, then the process is fundamentally controlling us. So you see, in order for us as human beings to live well-considered and well-informed lives, it's imperative that we grow to develop a much deeper understanding of our internal workings, and this is fundamentally what NLP is all about. Now, historically, NLP has developed itself a bit of a reputation over the years. Some people love it, some people hate it. There have been men who've written books about how to use NLP to impress women and get women in bed, and there's been other people who've used NLP and some of the core models to rip people off in the sales world and manipulate people and all that sort of thing. And what I want to suggest right now is that NLP within itself, it isn't actually a thing. NLP is a body of ideas, principles that haven't just been pulled together out of thin air, but it is in fact an evolving science that is building and basing itself upon our older psychological and philosophical forefathers. All right, so we're building knowledge upon knowledge, and packaging it up in a new body of information. One of the most common questions that I've been asked over the years is, Kane, how can I use NLP to solve a specific problem? For example, Kane, how can I use NLP to make my anxiety go away? Or how could I use NLP to help someone else fulfill their goals? And the thing is, you can't actually use NLP for these things because NLP isn't a tangible thing. As I've mentioned, it's a body of information, processes, methodologies, and techniques that I'm going to present with you. I'm going to present you with everything that you need to know, and it kind of becomes like menu-based options. Different principles are always going to be better used for different problems in life. So, to help you get the most from this course, the first idea I want to present you with is this idea of cognitive bias. All right. Now, one of the co-founders of NLP, Mr. Richard Bandler, many years ago wrote a book, and it's all about metaphor, the power of metaphor. Now, based upon what side of the brain you primarily operate from is going to determine whether you love stories or whether you don't. And if you are one of these people that absolutely hate stories, then what I'm going to encourage you to do is, throughout the course, consider why. All right, I'm going to share with you a few ideas that are hopefully going to help you to better unpack that idea. But most people generally love stories. If you think about it, stories are kind of the mode or the medium through which information has historically been passed from one generation over onto the other throughout the ages. Before the internet came into our lives around about 25 years ago, now all we had was we had books, we had scholarly textbooks, we had documents, we had scriptures, all these sorts of things. And generally, how wisdom has been passed from one generation on to the other has always been through stories. Now, in NLP, we use the word metaphor, all right, instead of story. So, if throughout the course I am talking about metaphors, all I'm really talking about is stories. And here, I want to share with you the first one of the course, which is hopefully going to help you to understand what cognitive bias is. Now, the first question I'm going to ask you here is: are you a moron or are you a maniac? Now, there's a pretty good chance, you're going to be saying, "Kane, I'm neither. I'm not a moron, and I'm not a maniac either. But I know plenty of other morons and plenty of other maniacs out there." Well, let's just have a look at how cognitively biased we can all be, because this is fundamentally how we judge and how it is that we arrive at the decisions that we arrive at as to whether things are good or whether things are bad. Because whether you are buying into this course right now or whether you're not is going to be solely determined by your cognitive bias, whether you're aware of it or whether you're not. It's not going to make this any less true. So, picture the scenario. All right, you are driving along the road one day, and here's you. You are driving in a nice red car. So you're driving along this road. You've been working in the afternoon, and you're just looking forward to getting home so you can have some dinner, spend some time with friends, family, loved ones, something like that. And what happens next? Well, you're on this country road, and you end up pulling up behind this other green car directly in front of you. Now, this green car is driving around about 20 miles or 20 kilometers slower than what the legal speed limit is. So you're right up his tail, and you're thinking about how much of a moron this guy is, completely inconsiderate. You want to get to this place you want to arrive at. This person here is just literally, perhaps in retirement, taking life at their pace with complete disregard for everyone else in the whole world. I mean, how many morons like this exist in the world? Loads, right? But then, what happens next? A blue car comes right up behind you, and you're stuck behind green car. So you're fundamentally going just exactly the same pace as what the green car is. You're going just as slow. This guy comes right up your tail, and he's honking his horn, and he's getting impatient. And you look in your rear view mirror, and you can see this guy raging. He's shaking his fist, and he's calling you a moron now. Can you believe it? And this guy is an absolute maniac, clearly. And can you see? Might you even be willing to consider the position that we sometimes take as we relate ourselves to other people? People are either morons or they are maniacs. You see, the funny thing about this cognitive bias principle is, if you think about it, when it comes to judging and comparing ourselves to other people, when it comes to arriving at decisions as to whether we fundamentally like things or whether we don't, we're always looking at difference. All right, this person here, he's just simply not doing what we want him to do. Therefore, that makes him a maniac. So he makes him a moron. This person here, well, we're actually getting in his way and preventing him from doing what he wants to do. And in his eyes, we're the moron, but in our eyes, he's the maniac. And can you see here that from this person's perspective, we're the maniac, and from this person's perspective, we're the moron. But yet, from our perspective, this person's a moron, and this person's the maniac. This is cognitive bias. what we're doing is we're comparing ourselves and new things to all things all of the time, and 9 times out of 10 we're not even aware that we're doing this. You see, you are going to be arriving at a conclusion at some point in the next few minutes as to whether this is the kind of course that you want to see through to completion or whether it's not. And what's going to be determining this is the arrival, the conclusions, the assumptions, the judgments that you've already made. If this course isn't meeting your expectations, you're going to be switching off. If it is, or if it's meeting and going beyond your expectations, you're going to be proceeding and carrying forward. And here's the funny thing: if we become more aware of this, then we can hopefully also then go on to consider that in the same way that we judge other people and make assumptions about other people are always going to be making judgments and assumptions about us. So, this is an NLP Practitioner certification course. It's an online course, so it does come with limitations. All right, it's not an attendance-based course, which means that throughout the sections that follow, myself and the team are going to do our best to present you with all of the information that you would be presented with on an attendance-based course, just without that experiential experience. So here I'm just going to ask you to manage your expectations, and in the video that follows, just consider how it is that cognitive bias might be impacting your perception on every single video, every single lecture, and every single idea that is shared with you. Because one thing I guarantee you from this point forth is that many of the ideas that I share you're not going to agree with. Some you will, some you won't. But this is fundamentally, remember, how we grow, by comparing new information that we're presented with to that which we fundamentally already know. This is all about neuro-linguistic programming, embracing some new ideas, making some new connections, and if necessary, reprogram our current way of thinking. So this is it. Hope you found this interesting. Morons, maniacs, I'm sure you're neither, but everyone else is, right? I'll see you in the next video, where we're going to break down and explain everything that we're going to be covering from this point forth right to the end of the course.